Hello again, welcome. My name is Alex Lowe. So the presentation today is resume and cover letter writing for graduate students. Again, we're going to cover resume basics, resume format, and organization of the content, bullet point writing, writing summary and summary of qualifications, comparing the curriculum vitae, and the cover letter writing. So first of all, what's resume used for? So this stat listed on this page is shared by jobscan.com. Jobscan.com is a website that help job seekers optimize their resume for application tracking system to pass an AI check. And so according to their stat, for each corporate job, on average, 250 candidates would apply. So 250 resumes. And out of 250 candidates, 4 to 6 will get an interview. And out of those 4 to 6 candidates, one person get a job offer. So as you can see, in the initial hiring stage, there's so many candidates, and resumes used as in the screening process and the deselection process for employers to decide that who they want to interview, who they don't want to interview. And this process can usually be very quick. Now, for each recruiter, they typically handle multiple positions hiring. And so that means for each recruiter on their desk, that can be anywhere from several hundreds to more than 1,000 resumes for them to process. So the purpose of a resume is to generate an interview. Because out of 250 candidates, employers are unlikely just to offer you a job based on what they see on your resume. And they probably want to learn more about you, give you opportunity to elaborate a little bit more about your experience and why you're interested in the organization, determine if you're going to be a good fit to the team. So purpose of resume is to generate interviews. And your resume really should look like an extended business card instead of autobiography that include all your career journey. So how much time do employers spend reading a resume? Anyone want to take a guess? A minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds?
I guess nothing,
Huh?
I guess nothing. Because when you go there for interview, they're gonna ask you, tell me about yourself or something like that.
Maybe 5 minutes, I would say.
5 minutes? Okay. So we have 2 minutes, we have 5 minutes. Okay, so now there have been a lot of studies done about how much time recruiters read resume, and the average put around 7 seconds during the initial review. And so this is based on recruiters. So if your resume is in hiring manager's hand, then they probably are going to spend a little bit more time to read, but probably not more than a minute or two. And but just remember that in the initial screening, the recruiters, you have to pass their screening. They only take typically 6 to 10 seconds. So you really cannot read through an entire document with 6 to 10 seconds. So they just scan very quickly. So those studies also capture the eyeball movement of the recruiters and to see where they pay most attention to. So what do employers look for when they read a resume? Organization name, job and degree title. And so those are the first thing they look for. And the action verb that start a bullet point, and also measurable result, impact that can be quantifying number, and usually catch their attention too. So now with this knowledge, it helps us to determine how we want to format our resume. And readers in English reading words, and readers read from left to right, top to down. And so it may be helpful for you to format your resume in such a way that the most important information is listed on the left-hand side, and most important information being job title, degree title, and organization name. Now, the secondary information, more like date, timeline, or location, you can move them to the right, so that make the left side a little more readable. You probably have seen resume format or template that has a timeline on the left-hand side, and there's nothing wrong about it. But that just do not present the most important information for the readers to read right away. That's why if you look at our resume samples, we always recommend putting the job title, degree title, and the organization name on the left-hand side. And also bullet points. And each bullet point is the beginning of a new sentence. And so If you have the beginning of a sentence, starting with the action verb, all lined up on the left-hand side for the readers to scan, then they don't need to read the entire paragraph. They don't have to read the entire sentence. Even just taking a quick scan of the left side of resume, they already get a sense of what you do. So keep this in mind. Resume is used to generate interviews, and usually in the initial review, the recruiters only spend a few seconds to scan the resume, and they're looking for information. They're looking for usually organization name, job and degree titles, and action verbs. Okay, so common resume mistakes. So we already know that resumes are used in the deselection process of the screening, the initial hiring. And so at that time, recruiters are probably more focused on disqualifying candidate instead of finding the perfect one right away. And I do have a friend I have, she used to work as a temp in a human resources department at UC San Diego. She said any job opening at UC San Diego, they can get 300 to 400 applications. And her job as an HR assistant was to find the slightest excuse to disqualify candidates based on what she saw on resume. So any typo, any grammatic error, or like a very obvious inconsistency in formatting, that become an excuse for her to basically disqualify the candidate. And now, maybe some job candidates may be wondering that, hey, I'm applying to a job that doesn't really involve my writing skill, and why does that matter? But just remember that the readers, the recruiters, they don't know who you are. They can make judgment based on what they see on the resume. And if the resume is full of inconsistent format or typos, grammatic errors, the viewers may make the assumption that this person is being sloppy or not really serious about this job. So do not give them that excuse, and it's best to have some friend to proofread your resume before you send that out. And also you can bring resume to Career Center for one-on-one review as well. Now, speaking about inconsistency formatting, some of those inconsistency may be a little bit hard to spot for most average job seekers, but for recruiters who read hundreds of resume every day, they can see this inconsistency right away. For example, like if you in the past, you copy and paste your content from different resume and merge them together, and maybe you're using different fonts or slightly different font size, and without noticing that. Another very common issue is indentation of bullet points, and again, especially when you copy and paste content from different versions of resume, or you use different kind of editors. For example, Google Doc is supposed to work just like Word, and however, their bullet point setup may be a little bit different from the default bullet point from Microsoft Word. And so then if you mix them together, the bullet point may look quite different. Those are just a few examples. Again, it may be a good idea to have a fresh pair of eyes to look at your resume, or you can bring them to the Career Center for review. Unprofessional emails. So I probably don't need to worry about that for most of you. But in the past, I did have the experience of reviewing resume written by a job candidate and using the email address that's has profanity in there, and it just made me question about the judgment of this individual, and using that kind of email for a job application. So if you want to start a brand new Gmail or Hotmail to just for your job search, that's totally fine. Just make sure that you select the email address that represents you in the kind of professional image that you want to represent yourself. Another common issue, lack of quantifiable result or specific skills. I've been on hiring committee many times, and sometimes when I see a person's resume being too vague, and that make me wonder that really, okay, so you tell me that you can do this and this. How do I know what kind of specific skill you use, and how do I know if you're effective, and do you really understand the nuance of the task that you perform? And having a little bit more detail or specifics can be helpful. I'm going to spend an entire slide on that later. Reading full paragraph, we covered this earlier. Because employees read so quickly, and they probably don't even want to read into paragraphs, because if you're if your job description or your experience is written in full paragraph, that means the reader have to read from beginning to the end to capture all the information. And in comparison, if you break them down to bullet points, and at the beginning of each bullet point is a verb that describe what you do, then it's a lot easier to scan. As for length, exceeding 2 pages, this rule is not really set in stone. It also depends on your field of work and your experience level. I would say for most graduate students with several years of work experience, if you're working, let's say if you're working education, higher education, counseling, therapy, it's not uncommon that for graduate students to have 2-page long resume if you have some several years of experience between college and grad school. Working in business field, however, unless you have quite extensive experience, try to stay under 1 page. Now, anything beyond 2 page may be a little too long, and anything after page 2 probably won't receive a whole lot of attention anyway. So if you have a hard time to decide what to keep and what to take out, and one tip I usually share with students that just imagine you're sitting in an interview and the hiring manager asks you, hey, please go through all your work experience and tell me what those are about. And if your answer is for certain bullet points that, this is a really old job and I learned a lot back then, but you really don't have much to talk about now. If that's the case, just leave them out of resume completely. The same apply to any student organization or community service work. If you don't feel there's any significance or relevance to talk about in an interview, then you probably don't need to include them on your resume. Just again, remember, anything that does not directly cater to your reader's interest become distraction. All right. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the common resume format based on how information is organized. So most common resume format, there's reverse chronological, or oftentimes just referred as chronological resume. There's a functional resume. There's also a hybrid format that combine the element of two. So let me show you what they look like. So now the most common resume format is reverse chronological format. So of course, start with name and contact information, and a summary or qualification or profile section is optional. And so for graduate student with maybe several years of work experience, and you really want to highlight what's unique about your work history or the most notable skills, it's an option for you to do that. So if you want to use a summary, just make sure it's something specifically tailored for the job requirement, and always change that up for different jobs, because this is the most valuable space on the resume. That's the first thing readers going to read. So if you carefully tailor this section to match the qualification required for the job, it will give a strong, quick impression. So try to avoid a really vague summary like energetic, self-motivated professional seeking challenging opportunity to grow. And because basically anybody can say that, and it does not really highlight what's unique about you as a professional and what kind of skill you can bring to the organization. So avoid those general summaries. Okay, so summary is optional. Then after that, whether you want to continue with education or professional experience, that really depends on which section you think will provide most relevant information. If you're currently working a job that's already very related to your field of work, and you feel that the work experience is very impressive, you don't present that, that's fine. If you feel that your education, what you're studying right now, will qualify for you, the kind of job or internship you're applying to, then you can list the education first. And as you can see, the format we use here, company name, job title on the left side, and the dates and the location on the right-hand side. And when possible, besides using bullet point, when possible, use quantifiable result to demonstrate the impact of your work. Now, if you're working in a more qualitative field, do not have a lot of numbers to show people, then one thing to help your resume bullet point stand out is to list a specific of the type of skill or tool you use, or maybe the type of client you interact with. Again, I'm going to show you some samples later. So now after education and experience, you can, as an option, you can list community service, leadership, student organization, interest and hobby, that's totally optional. And some employers see that's completely pointless. Some employers may see, oh, that makes this person look human, and also that may act as a conversation starter in the interview. So it's really optional. It's up to you. And just know that interest or hobby really is not the most important part of the resume. If you start to run out of space, you can delete them together. Okay, so this is reverse chronological format resume. It's the most common, and employers will probably anticipate something like that in most cases. Now, in some cases, the job seeker may benefit from a functional resume. So this functional resume focuses on experience and skills, and really downplay the timeline and work history. So as you can see, this functional resume looks very much like a very expanded profile section. So talking about research and analysis experience, and what this person did related to research and analysis, then problem solving, attention to detail, then followed by employment history without specific bullet point assigned to each job, and just a job title, organization name, and the date and location. So this format is more commonly used by the job seeker who want to highlight their transferable skills instead of their job title or work history. And typically that happens when job seekers going through a dramatic career change. So they want the employers to see the skill they can bring to this new field of work, and they want to emphasize that first. And in some cases, the job candidate may have very significant employment gap. They want to downplay the work history, and they want to highlight their what the tasks they can perform. And so in most cases, employers do not really prefer this format of resume, and because usually employers would like to see, you want to talk about the task you performed or the accomplishment, and where does this come from? Which job is this accomplishment affiliated to? So because this format really doesn't provide that information, and employers may not prefer to see this, and still leave a lot of doubt in employers' mind that, okay, you talk about all this accomplishment from which job, from when? Is that from 15 years ago? Or is that from your most recent job? So in most cases, I don't think you need to use this format. I've been a career counselor for more than 12 years. And in the past 12 years, I probably see fewer than 5 students who actually could benefit from this format. I remember one case was a student, I think an alumni, he had his career, basically he was doing the same thing, just with increasingly increase their responsibilities. And so it made no sense for him to repeat the same thing 5 times on the resume and just with slightly increased responsibility. And in that case, it makes perfect sense. And also the job title implied that he was doing very similar work. It's just become more senior member, more senior position, and have more responsibilities. And I think that's a very unique case that functional resume actually work much better than chronological. But in most cases, try to, if you feel you want to highlight a transferable skill without using,
jot it down. I'm going to ask some people to come off mute and share their examples, and we're going to talk about.
Pardon me?
Oh, sorry. That was on accident.
Okay. Okay, so if you really want to highlight your transferable skill, what I recommend is a hybrid format. So now this is a hybrid format of largely follow the chronological resumes structure, has a job title and has a company name and the responsibilities and the impact and the results all have bullet points specifically under each job. And however, if you want to emphasize the transferable skill, you can also put different groups of experience under each job. For example, for this first work experience, company name, position title, after that, put different category of skills. So marketing and project management skill, business development skill, training and development skill. So this way you will be able to highlight the type of skill you want the employers to see without sacrificing the chronological format that employers are most familiar with. Okay. Okay, so we have a question here. Actually, a couple questions. So let me pause a moment to address the questions. Over 20 years of work experience, how do I keep within 2 pages, fit everything? Can I leave all information out? Yes, you can leave all information out. really that depend on what's most relevant and significant at this time. And how can we highlight specific project we had completed in our grad program that will be relevant for job? Good question. Actually, I'm going to show you some samples that have project sections. All right. Continue on. Writing bullet points. So earlier I was talking about if bullet points are too vague, it's hard for the readers to capture what you really do, what you really can do. So here are some sample. Use action verb plus the skills and specific context and plus result if possible. So now let's rephrase this bullet point. Successfully, efficiently reroute the delivery fleet. How do we know this person is successfully and efficiently doing this task? So what's the measure here? So we rephrase that. Reroute a delivery fleet of 40 trucks. And what kind of skill does this person use? By analyzing traffic trend using XYZ program and resulting in a 20% reduction of delivery time. So we know the scale of responsibility. We know the impact of this person's work. We know the kind of specific skill in the program this person utilized to perform this task. So now for the job seekers that maybe their work is primarily qualitative. Earlier I mentioned that maybe you can add a little bit of context, a characteristic of the people you interact with, for example, or the type of skill you use. So provide individual and group counseling to youth. So add a little bit more detail. Provide counseling to at-risk youth from under-resourced community with a focus on healthy emotional expression, study skills, and self-regulation techniques. So yeah, sometimes I receive question about the length of bullet point. Can you go over one line for your bullet point? Yes, it's very common that bullet point can be longer than one line. But if your bullet point reach line 3, maybe consider breaking them down further. And because after 3 lines, it's also like a paragraph, it becomes a little bit hard to read. So yes, you can have multiple lines of bullet point, but when it's longer than 3 lines, consider breaking them down. Okay, so summary writing. Oh, we have another question. BA degree, what's your advice on including specific date of degree conferred? So by default, you may want to include the day you receive your degree. And of course, in some cases, for example, if you receive your bachelor's degree long ago, you don't want the reader to guess your age, and that's a concern. You can skip that, and I don't think that's going to be a big issue for employers. But just know that by default, you may want to list the graduation date. Okay, so writing summary. The beginning of your resume. As an option, you can write a summary or summary of qualification or profile, and those are very similar opening sections with slightly different focus. And a summary or summary of a qualification usually focus on answering the specific requirement of the job. And so now this is an example. The first half of this slide is project engineering position. I actually copied this from a real job description. And so I highlighted the key skills employers are looking for, and make sure that Tina Tororo, the second half is actually a real client resume. So the qualification highlight the specific type of experience, the type of skill, and the technical knowledge that this employer is looking for. So this is very important, not only for human eyes, but also, if I remember correctly, about 95% of Fortune 500 companies, most of those big companies use application tracking system. That's an AI program used to scan for keywords. And what kind of keyword they're looking for, you can probably get some hint just by looking at the qualification. And so if your resume do not have those keywords and key skills, there's a good chance that the human recruiters are not even going to pick them up. And typically a resume need to have certain percent match of the keyword in order to be forwarded for hiring consideration. So it's very important to tailor your resume. You don't have to rewrite a resume every single time, but just be mindful about the keyword and the key skills used for this job. Okay, we have a question. On my resume, I have separate technology skills into a separate section. then soft skill and the bullet out each not in sentence. Does this hurt my resume? I don't think it's going to hurt your resume. You can definitely just have keyword and key skill listed separately. And actually, there are some sample resumes I can show you how they look like. As for soft skill, I usually don't focus much on soft skills unless it show up repeatedly in the job description. Because soft skill is something that anybody can say. And for example, people skill or good communication skill. And if you want to do that, you can put that a little bit into context. For example, develop strong communications, oral and written communication skill through years of report writing and presentations. And if you just simply say, I'm good in communication or I'm good with people, that's not going to make a lot of impact because anybody can say that. And so it's hard to register in reader's mind. Okay, I'm going to show you some samples in that area too. Okay. So as a summary, proofread, and any flaw, any grammatic error can seriously jeopardize your chance of getting an interview. Create targeted version, optimize for ATS, and just know that employers, whether it's human recruiters or ATS application tracking systems, they're looking for keyword, key skills. So make sure your resume have them. And start each bullet point with action verb. So avoid the vague expression like responsibility include a variety of blah, 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 blah. Half sentence already done and the reader still do not know what you do. And so just responsibility or duty included and start directly with the verb that describe your action. Connect skills employers' needs. Again, that's about tailoring. Demonstrate value, result, and impact when possible, or at least try to describe a specific kind of skills or context of your work. So now let's look at some samples. Okay, so our sample resumes, you'll be able to find this under either undergraduate student or graduate student, and that lead to the same resume guide, career resources, resume guide and samples. Okay, so now I recall a few questions about listing project on your resume and also listing skills, keywords, and I can show you some samples how they look like. So first of all, project. So a lot of those sample resumes have projects. So if I pick this one, business admin, this one. So this is one way to list projects. So After Education has a dedicated projects section, and this project is about Uber financial analysis and through USD. And so the rest you can describe just like a job, starting with action verb and analyze greater San Diego social media, including promotion, online advertisement for driver referral, recommend ways like utilizing new platforms to increase Uber driver referral promotion by 30% in case the employer decide to implement that. So this is one way to list project. And also, I think the architecture resume has a project section that's more tied to each class. So the architecture resume here. Okay, so relevant projects. So urban dwelling, international housing development. This one's through McNair Scholar. And the urban village as innovation hub. This one's through architecture design vertical studio. And again, the content, you can write it almost like a job. So if you feel that your projects actually is more relevant to the career field you're pursuing than your previous work experience, it may make sense to list project above experience, list project first. That will give more, receive more attention. And that's true, especially true when working with like a cybersecurity or AI or a data science student. They acquire a lot of technical skill and experience to their class projects. And that's just some example that maybe you want to list project above your work experience. So that's the project samples. And actually this alumni resume here, alumni resume, early career. This is an example of summary section that combine the technical skills and a few words about introduction about who this person is as a professional. So now as for the skill section, you want to merge a little bit about transferable or soft skill with technical skill. You can also consider this format, maybe just a couple sentences, including the kind of quality you want to talk about, the transferable soft skill you want to talk about, like good with problem solving and communication and team building, and then list the specific technical skill in bullet points. You can use a multiple colon if they're not too long. So this is an example of listing summary that also have specific technical skills. Another graduate student resume, actually there are a couple other graduate student resume samples I would like to share. This one, graduate student resume. This is based on Kroc School alumni. Start with a summary. So she's a return Peace Corps member, and she wants to show people first that that's very significant international experience. It has 8 years experience in early childhood and alternative education, experience in teaching, curriculum design, qualitative and quantitative research, program development, cross-function team building, grant writing, fundraising, and the language skill. So this section, again, can always be tailored to match different jobs. So now whether to include coursework or research experience, that really depends on what kind of job you're applying to. So this alumni, the reason we list coursework is because a lot of readers out there may not be familiar with the curriculum of a peace studies degree. So in this case, it definitely makes sense to list coursework for a Kroc student. And now as for research experience, because this alumni at that time, she was also still considering research-based fellowship type of position. So we did include a little bit of research experience as well, although we did not spend a lot of volume on that. Now, in comparison, if you're applying to a academia position or research-heavy position, you want to have a curriculum vitae, what does that look like? So let me share curriculum vitae. Okay, so basically it's like a resume, but focus a lot more on academic information. So relevant coursework, even you can even come up with different category relevant coursework, for example, theoretical foundation or contemporary issues or research design, and they can assign them different categories. Research experience can be more elaborate. The research advisor, research program, the research question, how you come up with a concept and design the research, and the hypotheses, and how you collect data, how you analyze data, what's the research finding, and did you present that in a conference? So curriculum vitae focus a lot more on research and academia. And if you have a teaching experience, being a TA or have taught some courses, definitely list that as well. Presentation and publication, academic awards, those are the focus of curriculum vitae, then followed by other work experience. So again, this is not dramatically different from a resume for a job. It just have a lot more content for academia, for academic based information. Okay, so now one last resume I want to show is the MFT resume. This is also graduate students resume. So I want to show you this one because under clinical experience, you can see this person lists a lot of detail about the kind of work they do, and the counseling session in English and Spanish with adults experiencing co-occurring diagnoses such as trauma, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and so on and so on. Use CBT or MI and ACT as the primary counseling technique, and the individual and group session. And so this gives the reader clear idea about the kind of client and client's characteristics and the type of skill they apply, the setting, and the organization's environment as well. So if your work is more qualitative in nature, you can consider a model after this. So on this page, the right-hand side are all resume samples with PDF files with some tips and pointers. Left-hand side are templates. So you can make a copy of this Google Doc. So it's basically a Word document. You can download it, you can edit however you like. The formatting is very simple. It does not use templates. Do not use the tables or text boxes that most of the resume templates typically use. So because the format is simple, this is ATS friendly. And ATS usually have trouble reading texts inside text boxes and table. That's why I do not recommend using a template that you may find online or download that from somewhere. Instead, try to stick with the most basic format that we offer here, make it more ATS friendly. Okay, so now before we continue to talk about cover letter, do you have any question about resume? All right, so let's take a look at cover letter. So this guide is also on the same page, cover letter guidance samples. So cover letter, what's a cover letter for? Sometimes that's the first question I receive when a student asks me about cover letter advice. And so when you're applying to a job, sometimes employers may ask you to submit your resume and the cover letter. And the cover letter sometimes is being optional. So if your resume is a list of facts that show your education, experience, skill, and what you have done, cover letter give you room to explain a little bit more about why you're interested in this position, and you will actively connect your skill and experience to match the employer's requirement. And also, this will be a great opportunity to talk about soft skill or personal quality that match the job requirement as well, because cover letter give you a little more room to cite specific examples. So format-wise, contact information, try to use the same font and style as your resume because they are usually used together. So just for visual consistency. And at the beginning of the letter, the date, the employer's name and job title, company name, and all this information. And if the employer name is not available, oftentimes you may not know the hiring manager or recruiter's name. Then you can address to the company. For example, dear University of San Diego Human Resources, or dear University of San Diego so-and-so department. And try to avoid a generic, like to whom this may concern. That just sounds a little cold and distant. So now resume format and typical three-part of cover letter, typically three-part of the cover letter, introduction, the middle paragraph, and closing. So this is the format that's most commonly used, and you don't need to be super creative. And again, it's just similar to resume. Employers, when they read cover letter, they don't have a lot of time and patience to read. And so make it as direct and easy to read as possible. So opening paragraph usually state what job you're applying for, how you find out about it, and maybe just one sentence to quickly summarize why you're interested or how you qualify for the job. Now, the second part of the letter can be multiple paragraphs. Start to elaborate how you meet the qualification and cite specific examples. And don't be afraid of repeating something that's already on your resume, because sometimes employers may read your cover letter first without reading your resume. And in that case, if you write in your cover letter, as you can see on my resume, I have so and so kind of experience. That becomes a little bit vague because the employers have not learned the specifics of your work history. So you can cite specifically, why was a so-and-so position in so-and-so company, I did so-and-so kind of task that prepared me for this role. And also before the ending paragraph, you can also briefly talk about why you're so excited about being part of this organization, what do you know about that, and why you may be a good fit. Now, the ending paragraph usually very simple. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. I look forward to further discussing my candidacy with you in an interview. So samples. So the first sample here is an internship, marketing internship for the athletics department, and the requirements: social media and communication skill, and the face-to-face, phone, email, and social media, and interesting sports, and able to learn to work independently or multitask in the projects, and strong interpersonal skill. So the letter: applying to the NCAA Division I Athletics Marketing Internship posted through Handshake on USD's website. And as a former basketball player, interested in marketing, this internship will will be able to help me explore marketing career while bringing my background as an athlete. And so after reviewing the position, I'm confident I have the right skill you're looking for. So now this paragraph specifically talks about the past work experience. As a media operations intern, I work for more than 100 clients each week to help them post and promote the properties they're trying to lease. Work with several departments to problem solve and meet the specific needs of each client. I find that when managing numerous projects at once, the key to excellent communication is active listening and asking questions to learn what clients want from our services. So this paragraph uses specific examples to address the problem-solving skill, managing multiple projects, communication skills, so specifically answer to the requirement of the job. So this is very important because if you use a generic cover letter and use that to copy and paste and just change out the job title for each job application, recruiter will see right away that whether you tailor your letter to answer to their requirement or not. And if you send a generic cover letter, not only it's not going to make a strong impression, and sometimes it may create a negative impression, and because that may show the employers that you're not really interested in this job, or you probably haven't even read the job description. You're not answering to the requirement that we set. And in our office, when we hire people, when we have a spreadsheet of each candidate, we have a column called the generic cover letter. And if any candidate send a generic cover letter, we usually check that just so when we review candidate, we know that, oh, this candidate sent a generic cover letter. Usually that means that candidate is not going to receive serious consideration. And very important. And ending paragraph. So talk a little about what's so exciting about the prospect of working in this department. And thank you so much for your time and consideration. So if this is a hard copy, a paper copy, you can leave a little extra space and sign your name, then type your name. And if it's a digital copy, you don't have to put a signature there. Just typing your name will be sufficient. Okay, the second sample is a little bit different. This is somebody who's already an intern with the company applying to full-time job. So this person started a letter by talking about, as an intern in this company, I've learned so much about myself, about industry, and this is what I learned. Therefore, I'm so excited to apply to full-time positions. It's a little bit different flow because the circumstance is different. Now, the third one, back to the format of the first, just like the first letter, introduction, talk about qualifications, and wrapping up. Now, the difference is that this letter format, instead of writing paragraphs and paragraphs for the middle section of the letter, this letter outline the requirement for this job and write a small paragraph to address to each. So if you're looking at a job, have several areas of very specific requirements, and you can try this format. I think this is easy to read and easy for the employer to see that you want to specifically address to their requirement, and also save you the trouble of writing transitions between different paragraphs, especially if it was asking for several very different aspects of your quality or experience, and the writing transitions between paragraphs may be a little difficult. Then you can try this format. Personally, I really like this, and I know a lot of students that I coach use this format as well. So this is cover letter, and so I think that concludes the presentation we have today. Any question? I see a question here. If emailing a resume to a potential employee, is attaching a PDF of cover letter necessary? Good question. I would encourage you to do that. And if you use the email body as a cover letter, and as an option, you can attach a PDF file of a cover letter, because sometimes employers like to print document out to read or to share with the colleagues. And if there are a PDF file that can print out in a nicer format, and probably in a format that's consistent to your resume, and plus it's not going to do any harm to attach an extra copy as a PDF. So yes, I do recommend attaching an extra copy as a PDF file. All right, so again, I see a couple questions. All right, thank you very much. The cover letter resume samples are very helpful. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. And again, you can find those resume and cover letter samples from our website, sandiego.edu/careers. And also a lot of my presentation I've done before. You can also find under the graduate student resources, lower right-hand, recorded career development webinars. So if you want to look at similar presentation about interview or networking using LinkedIn, and we have a lot of recorded presentations on this page. Okay, again, thank you so much for participating today, and I'm going to stay for a few minutes to answer any questions you may have.